Ladies and gentlemen, season 7 of the Locked On Penguins podcast begins today. And if you have been enjoying your summer, we're going to make sure you're ready for this upcoming season all week, starting today with the transactions made this offseason.
You're Locked On Penguins, your daily podcast on the Pittsburgh Penguins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Locked On Penguins podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Patrick Damp. You can follow me on all social media at synonym for wet, joined as always by the one and only Hunter Hodes. You can follow him on Twitter at Hunter Hodes. Our Twitter account is LO_Penguins, and we are also on Instagram at LockedOn_Penguins. And of course, we appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Don't forget that we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as YouTube. And if you follow us on YouTube, be sure to hit the notification button. That way you can be among the first to know when we drop our daily Monday through Friday episodes. And that begins this week. We are here on a Monday morning, and we are back to daily episodes. We will be here Monday through Friday, all the way through the Penguins season, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and up to the draft. So get ready, because it's September 8th, and that means we get some hockey this month. Next week is this weekend technically is the Prospect Challenge. We will obviously get you ready for that later in the week. And then at the end of this month, the preseason gets going, and we are not too far away from Penguins training camp. But with all of that said, this week we are taking it as our summer catch-up series. If you have been enjoying your summer and you have been kind of checked out on hockey, we're going to make sure you're ready for everything that you need to know in the lead up to training camp. Today, Hunter, we will start with all of the transactions. Well, most of them, because there were some on the margins that aren't that important, but some of the big moves that were made this offseason by the Penguins and general manager Kyle Dubas. We begin with one of the bigger signings for them this offseason, and that is forward Anthony Mantha, a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. And he's coming off of knee surgery, but when you look at where the Penguins are with rebuilding, retooling, whatever Kyle Dubas decides to call it this week, this is the exact type of player that they're going to be targeting for the short term right now. Getting a little bit older, has been a solid NHL contributor for the majority of his career, signed to a 1-year low money deal, has some upside. If he plays well, he's going to be great trade deadline fodder. If he doesn't, it's $2.5 million for 1 year. And when the season comes to a close, you can let him walk.
Well, first off, Pat, I just want to say welcome to season 7, my friend. We have officially made it. We're back to dailies. Training camp should probably start next week, if I had to guess. We're going to have the Prospects Challenge this weekend. Pat, I don't know why they won't release the roster. It's only a few days away, and we don't even know who's going to be playing in the Prospects Challenge. The Penguins are taking their sweet time with that. Also, I think we should be expecting, hopefully, an announcement on a third jersey for this year. Would love to see that at some point before training camp. They're taking their sweet time with that as well. So they're just being very patient with some of the expected announcements, it feels like, before the regular season starts in early October. The ownership change could potentially happen before then. We have to see. But as for the Anthony Mantha signing, as we rehash that one to kick off dailies, I mean, I loved it. You're taking a chance on someone who is coming off ACL surgery. He should be fine for the start of the regular season. Before last season, he had a 23-goal year in 23-24. This is someone you can play up and down your lineup. I expect him to get top 6 minutes like Anthony Beauvillier did last season. I also expect him to get third-line minutes. So you can play him on either line. It really doesn't matter. I think he is still going to produce. And he's kind of going to have that Beauvillier role where if you can get 15, 20 plus goals out of him around the trade deadline, you can flip him to a contender and hopefully get a solid return. That's exactly what the Penguins did with Anthony Beauvillier. They gave him top 6 minutes. They gave him power play 2 time, but mostly a lot of top 6 minutes, especially on Crosby's line, by the way. And they were able to flip him to the Capitals for a 2nd round pick. Mantha is Beauvillier's replacement. And I do think he can have some solid production on this team.
Yeah, that's where I sit with him. It's a savvy move by Kyle Dubas because, as I said, he either comes in, kind of reclaims what he had 5-6 years ago when he was hovering around, like you said, 10 to 15 goals, 45, 50-ish points, a good fringe top 6 player on a non-contender, but you flip him to a contender and he's solidly a third-line contributor that helps you with depth scoring as you make a run towards the playoffs and into the playoffs. And where the Penguins are right now, that's the exact kind of player you want to target, because come March, you're able to flip him for younger prospects, picks, whatever, depending upon his performance and what the market shakes out to be once you get towards the trade deadline. And obviously we'll see what happens with that when you get to that time of year. So I like that signing. Another signing I'm a big fan of, I've talked about this if you've been paying attention to us this summer, this offseason, and that's Justin Brazeau. 2-year deal, 1.5 million AAV. He is a very good, in my estimation, has the potential to be a very good middle 6 forward in my estimation. He stands at 6'6". He's got some concerns when it comes to skating, but it's not bad skating. You look at the way he's played. He had 22 points last year between the Boston Bruins and the Minnesota Wild, 11 goals, 11 assists. And this is another player kind of similar to Mantha in the sense that if you feel like you're still a little bit further away from contention or playoff contention, you can flip him at the deadline this year or next year. But if he turns out to be a productive middle 6 forward, he's in his late 20s, but hasn't played a ton of NHL games. If you can see him being a part of your bottom or middle 6 over the next 4 to 5 years, it's not a bad guy to take a bet on.
It's kind of like Blake Lizotte in a way, right? Like, yeah, you could have flipped him last year. He's going into a contract year this year for the Penguins, so they didn't really have to flip him, but I think this year they probably will. Brazo, kind of the same thing. I don't think you have to flip him at the deadline, but if a team gives you an offer you can't refuse, you at least have to take a look at it. And again, if it's really good, you can just make the call to flip him, even though he'll have another year left on his contract. I see Justin Brazeau as a better version of Noah Chari in the bottom 6. I wouldn't say middle 6 for him, Pat. I'd just go mainly bottom 6, third, fourth line player. I don't think he's going to be playing higher than that in the lineup, but he can give them some depth scoring. Defensively, fine, but he'll bring a physical presence, which we know Dubas and company have felt that that's been lacking for the Penguins these last couple of years. And I will say, to an extent, like, they've definitely been really soft in front of their own net. So I get that as well, but he'll bring the physical element. He'll bring some depth scoring, and that's really what I'm looking for from him. Like, again, a better version of Achari, because Achari, he can't really defend his own zone well, can't really score that well, not a good penalty killer. If Brazo is the upgrade over that, I think the Penguins are totally fine there. He was really solid last season for both Boston and Minnesota. So I like that signing. I think it's one of the better signings they made during free agency.
I do too. I also look back at, he is familiar with Kyle Dubas. He was in the Toronto system for a while.
Yep.
And a lot of people in Toronto were kind of upset that he was able to walk and go to Boston, simply because he is kind of, at least used to be when he was with Toronto, a B or C level kind of prospect where you could see the potential there, but you knew it was going to take a while. It was a guy that you had to develop. It was a guy that he wasn't going to instantly make a difference with the big club. You give him some time in the minors. You give him some time to really round out his game, because he's a bigger player, but he's got some skill. He's got some snarl. And if you are patient with him, when he gets his shot, he'll take advantage of it. And you look at what he did last year with both Boston and Minnesota, and you can see that starting to blossom. Now, I don't want to pretend like he's going to be a superstar because he isn't. But if the Penguins give him good opportunities, which I think they will this upcoming season, I'm not saying he's going to become a second liner or anything, but a mainstay on the third line who can also occasionally fill in when there's injuries or underperformances in the top six, you can temporarily put him on the second line. Again, if he continues to develop, which is always the biggest question mark. But like you, I'm a big fan of this signing. He has been my dark horse candidate all summer long as a player that we might look at come mid-season and go, that was a really good, really savvy signing. So we'll see what happens, but big fan of that one. We still have a few more signings to go through, so we're going to do that when we come back here. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, a couple more signings the Penguins made this offseason. We'll dive into those right after this. Before we do that, though, we've got to tell you about today's first sponsor, and that is FanDuel. The NFL season, it's back and in full swing, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for each and every kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel makes every game day more exciting, whether you're watching your favorite team, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Aaron Rodgers getting a little bit of revenge on the New York Jets in week 1, or if you're just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel is can't miss. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to your NFL Sundays. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp. That's Hunter Hodes. Before we dive back in, we have an important request for you. Locked On wants to hear from you. We've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't like, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. Again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link right in our show notes, whether it's on your favorite podcasting app or on YouTube. Thank you in advance for helping us out. All right, Hunter, let's jump back into it. I said this to you before we started recording. We kind of felt like the Penguins weren't that active this summer, and then we were preparing for this show, and we went, Dubas was a little bit busy in early July, made a few signings, made some trades. Let's keep it with the signings. Let's start with one that I'm interested to see what happens with this one, and that's defenseman Alexeyev. 1 year, $775,000 deal. 25-year-old defenseman, first-round pick in 2018, hasn't totally panned out as an NHL defenseman, but only 25. He was kind of a victim of the numbers game with the Capitals because we know that they're a few years ahead of the Penguins when it comes to their retool on the fly. The potential is there, and the Capitals kind of said when he walked, it wasn't that they didn't want to lose him, but they wanted to see him go somewhere where he'd get more of a shot.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be given every opportunity to make this team out of camp and try to be a mainstay on the left side. There's definitely a lot of intrigue here. Some of his underlying numbers, and I wrote about this for the Hockey News last week when I was talking about can he earn a full-time role. A lot of his underlyings are pretty intriguing. Like, I know this year he only played in 8 NHL regular season games. No goals, no points, a little over 123 5-on-5 minutes. Small sample size, but when he was on the ice, the Capitals had 58% of the expected goals, 54% of the scoring chances, and 55% of the high danger chances. Look, I don't know if those numbers would stick for a full season. I probably doubt it. I think they would, fluctuate, go up, down, but they're at least intriguing enough to be like, there might be at least a little something there. Heck, the season prior to this one, in 23-24, he played in 39 games, just over 500 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time, so a much bigger sample. Expected goal percentage was 49.7, so a little bit below water. High danger percentage was 51.5. His scoring chance percentage was 51.2. So the latter two numbers, not as good as this past season. Of course, this season, very small sample size, but there's definitely, again, some intrigue there. I think he skates fine, in my opinion. He's able to break the puck out, but it's all about getting him to be more consistent in all aspects of his game. Like, you can definitely see there is a talented player here. And if you play him more, I think that's how you unlock him, but he's still going to have to earn it. Like that's the thing. We don't know how good he will be in Dan Muse's system. Like, I think he's totally fine to take a chance on him, but still, we have to see. But I like that they're bringing in like a low risk move here to sign Alexeyev just to see if he can maybe earn a spot here on the left side. The competition isn't exactly that fierce, Pat. You have Parker Wotherspoon, who we'll get to in just a second. You have Ryan Graves, who we know who he is. Owen Pickering, who I would love to see make the team. Ryan Shea, we kind of know who he is at this point, at number 7, number 8. I mean, does one of Matt Dumba or Connor Clifton play on the left side? Who knows? But again, the competition isn't exactly that good on the left side, so he'll have opportunities.
You use the perfect word for Alexeyev, and that's intrigue. And I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to come off as insulting, but it might to some. It reminds me a lot of them taking a chance last year on Kolyachonok. And obviously, we don't know what Dan Muse's system is going to be. That's going to come out during camp. It's going to come out during the preseason and as we get into the regular season. But with Kolyachonok, it was the same kind of deal. The intrigue was there. You could see something of a good defenseman, but the inconsistencies were constantly there, whether it was in the small sample he had here in Pittsburgh or his time in Arizona/Utah. He seemed unable to put it together for multiple games at a time. He would go 2-3 games where you'd think, okay, we got something here, and then 2-3 games where you didn't notice him. So I'm curious to see what happens with him. Again, the opportunity is there for him to grab a spot, so we'll see what happens. You brought up Parker Wotherspoon. Let's go right to that. 2-year, $1 million AAV deal. There's not a lot to say about this one overall. He's a depth defenseman, played 55 games, 1 goal, 7 points, maps out as a bottom pairing guy. He can play responsible defense when you need him to. We'll see what happens here, but this is just, you can see a little bit when you look at the Penguins offseason moves. They want there to be competition on the defense because we know it's not very good. So rather than throwing up the white flag and saying, okay, we're just accepting that our defense is going to be bad, you get a bunch of people who, while they're not overwhelming or great, you make them all compete against one another to pick up a spot.
Right. And just one more thing about Alexeyev. I didn't want to interrupt you there while you were cooking. He has some size, 6'4", so I know the Penguins have been looking for a lot of that over the last couple of years. They want their defensemen to be a bit bigger, a bit tougher to play against. Again, he has some offensive capabilities, but I just want to see him use it more effectively, and I think he could be a bit more physical along the boards as well. But as for Parker Wotherspoon, you did say it. He maps out as a bottom pairing guy, but Pat, he would be a bottom pairing guy on a Stanley Cup contender. The Penguins are not exactly contending this year, so in my opinion, I think he needs to be on the top pairing. You really have no choice at this rate, unless Owen Pickering goes out there and just wows everyone to a degree that none of us really see coming, where you can put him on the top pairing with Erik Karlsson. But I think to start the season, or at least as of right now going into the camp, Parker Wotherspoon should be the favorite to get the top pairing minutes with Erik Karlsson. I know that is going to scare some people, and I totally get it. The defense is not exactly good heading into the season. I wouldn't even say it's okay heading into the season. It's flat out bad still. But Wotherspoon will at least let Karlsson do his thing in the offensive zone. Wotherspoon will be able to a degree, clean up some of his errors. He'll be a steady presence on the pairing, be able to break the puck out, go from defense to offense, skate well, defend his own zone. And I think that's all what Karlsson can ask for with his defensive partner. You saw last season, it just wasn't working out with really any of the partners that he had outside of Marcus Pettersson. So getting
even that with Marcus Pettersson last year, it worked for a little while, then it didn't, then it worked again, then it didn't. There was no consistency there. But yeah, I like what you're saying about that. I think that there's an opportunity there for him.
Right. No, I agree with you on that. Again, like with Weatherspoon, I like really a lot of aspects of his game. He can defend his own zone really well. He can skate. He doesn't really bring that much offense. There's room for improvement there, but I still think it's okay. Not at the level that someone like Erik Karlsson is, but I still think it's fine. And he can also be a little physical. So I like that aspect as well. Again, a lot of these signings, they're really just low risk to potentially, medium reward. I'm not going to go high reward. Well, maybe Anthony Mantha. I would say that's a high reward one. Justin Brazeau, maybe medium. And then for Weatherspoon, I would say medium as well. I don't think he's going to turn into a, crazy top 4 guy. But with the options the Penguins have right now on the left side, they kind of have no choice but to play him in the top 4. And if I had to say right now, I do think he's going to get those minutes.
He could become one. He very well could become one. So we will see what happens with him on that one. But that's not all that we have to talk about. Yes, Kyle Dubas did make a bunch of signings. He also made quite a few trades.
Did you forget Caleb Jones, Pat? We didn't.
Yeah, I think we're all going to, no offense, I think we're all going to forget about Caleb Jones. I don't mean that in a negative way. He's been I'll say this real quick. He's been an up and down guy. He really was only able to stick with the Chicago Blackhawks when they were really struggling. He's mostly an AHL guy. He'll be 8th or 9th defenseman. When there's injuries, underperformances, he'll get a shot. He's usable, but if he ends up on your blue line full time, their problems are a lot bigger than we once thought. Again, no offense to Jones, but he is kind of shown to be mostly an AHL defenseman, and he'll be a depth option this year. So like I was saying, we also got to talk about the trades Kyle Dubas has made. A lot of that is going to involve the goaltending. We will dive into that when we come back right after this. Welcome back to the Monday edition of Locked On Penguins. I'm Patrick Damp, running alongside the one and only Hunter Hodes. And let's start here, Hunter, when we talk about trades, because there's a couple that we do have to discuss. But let's begin with what happened with the goaltending. The first thing Kyle Dubas did on the trade market with goaltending is on July 1st, rather than making a bunch of signings, he goes out and makes a trade. Penguins trade goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic to the San Jose Sharks for a 2028 third-round pick. Now, we all got really excited and we're like, oh my God, this means they're going to bring one of Blomqvist up, or they're going to give Sergei Murashov a shot. We didn't know what he had coming in a few days after that. But at the end of the day, I will say this. This was a good move by Kyle Dubas in the sense that Nedeljkovic was going to be on an expiring deal. You could see the logjam on the depth chart when it came to goaltending. And I mean for the entire organization, not just in Pittsburgh. So being able to get something out of Nedeljkovic and sending him somewhere where he's probably going to be a legitimate 1B and get better playing time, you get a third-round pick for him. You do right by Nedeljkovic, who's been a loyal soldier and a good part of the locker room for the last couple of years. All in all, I like that deal.
Yes, very much. And he was a fine enough backup for the Penguins. He could be a 1B in other circumstances, but once you started giving him, starter minutes, that's where it kind of went south for the Penguins. I will say he definitely lit a fire into this team at multiple points during the last couple of seasons, especially Pat against the Flyers last year, where he literally slams the door, barks at the whole team after he was pulled, and the Penguins were able to come back and win that game. But still, I loved that he had that fire in him at times, because you see him off the ice. He seems like he's so stoic, seems like he's so chill. And then you see him do that stuff on the ice where he's like breaking his stick, throwing it in the corner, slamming the door, telling his team to wake up. And to their credit, they listened to Ned. And I do think that they will miss, that locker room aspect for this season. He was someone that the Penguins could rely on as a leader when they don't have to go to one of the core guys. And I think it's a good landing spot for the Sharks. You know, him and Askarov, I think, can be at least a fine enough duo. Askarov, I think, is going to get the starters minutes for the Sharks, and rightfully so. I think he's ready for that. And Ned can be a solid backup to maybe even a 1B for him. And then after that, Pat, we get the Arturs Silovs trade where we're like, oh, they're finally not going to be having, you know, a logjam for the goalies. Kyle Dubas is like, screw that. I'm going to keep doing that. And he trades for Arturs Silovs, and, you know, totally fine price. He didn't really have to give up anything of value for Silovs. And I've said it a lot during the offseason, and we're playing catch up now. I think he is the favorite to be the backup to Tristan Jarry this year. If he plays well in those stints and Jarry struggles during the regular season, I think he could even steal some starts from Jarry and be, you know, kind of like a 1B to maybe even a 1A. But we just have to see how he does to start the year if he wins that job over Yoel Blomqvist. And as of right now, again, I do think he is going to win that job. Silovs, he was great in the AHL this past season. AHL playoff MVP, helped the Abbotsford Canucks win the Calder Cup. He's also been great internationally, helped Latvia win a bronze medal at the World Championships a couple years ago. When the stakes get the highest, he tends to play his best hockey. Below that, it's about getting more of the consistency. He's also been giving up some howlers at the NHL level. Get those out, get him to be a bit more consistent. I think they can have the makings of a potential decent goalie here, but that's the thing. His NHL minutes last year weren't very good. He does have some experience with that, like the playoffs against the Oilers. I thought he was tremendous, even though the save percentage, some of the numbers wouldn't say that. But eye test wise, I felt like he was keeping the Canucks in a lot of those games. And I think he showed that he has the potential to be a solid NHL goalie, but it's about him finding that consistency. So I like the Penguins taking a chance on him. It's kind of like a dart throw because of their goalie situation right now with Tristan Jarry kind of being, he is what he is at this rate. I don't think he's going to finish his contract, but you know who Tristan Jarry is. You've had him for this long. So I'm excited about that trade as well.
I don't have a lot to add. You pretty much hit on every point about Arturs Silovs. I do think that's his job to take, and I think he's going to push Tristan Jarry. You also brought up the price. It was next to nothing. They sent a 2027 fourth-round pick in Chase Stillman, a prospect who didn't really have much of a path to the NHL in the Penguins system. So you get a potential 1B, even potential job-stealing goalie out of it. That's a good trade. So we'll see what happens with him. Couple other trades we got to talk about. Let's touch on this one real quick because it's a player that's going to see some minutes this year. This was a draft day trade on day 2. The Penguins get Connor Clifton from the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Connor Timmins, a Connor for Connor trade. The Penguins also got the 39th pick in the NHL draft, which they used to take defenseman Peyton Kettles. So Connor Clifton, another player who is going to get a shot to take some minutes on the blue line this year. And he's got some size. He's got some potential. It's a good chance worth taking, I think, for the Penguins in the defense.
They're trying to get him to bounce back, maybe be able to flip him at the trade deadline. He wasn't good in Buffalo last year, but Buffalo was also, as usual, a mess. So they're going to try to see how he is in a new system. I think when you compare him to Matt Dumba, I think Clifton is kind of the favorite for that spot right now on the bottom pairing. Also, unless Harrison Brunik goes in there and blows everyone away again, we'd have to see. But right now, again, to be determined. But just for Clifton, I'll say this. Both him and Dumba were really bad last year. If there's one I'm more confident in bouncing back, even though I'm not too confident in either player, I would lean towards Clifton. But I'm open to be wrong about that. So they'll give him opportunities to bounce back. They will give him minutes. And if he's able to be a bit better, maybe a contender will come calling for him at the deadline. As for Matt Dumba, they traded for him to help out the Dallas Stars. That was really the last big move they made earlier this offseason in July. It's been very quiet these last couple of months. Dumba, healthy scratch in the playoffs, did not play. He was a little bit banged up last year, but still played most of the season. But the thing is, Pat, he looks mostly cooked, and he's in his early 30s. That's concerning because normally you would see this type of level from a player in their mid to late 30s. But he's
for sure. But
yeah,
you got to also look at it from this way, because here's the trade for Dumba. The Penguins send defenseman Vladislav Kolyachonok to Dallas. In exchange, they get Matt Dumba and a 2028 second round pick.
Yeah.
This is what you do at this stage of a rebuild. You extract some value out of a team that needs to get rid of a bad deal. And here's the thing. Dumba, you're right. Like, he was a healthy scratch on a Dallas team that had Stanley Cup aspirations last year. Obviously, they fell short, but he's got 1 year left on this deal. You tell Dallas, hey, you send us a second round pick, we'll send you a mid-tier prospect, and we'll take that money off your hands so you can work towards getting to the Stanley Cup final. And at this point, I'm with you that I think Dumba is who he is. I don't see him bouncing back, at least not in any significant way. But you look at it from this perspective. Either he doesn't bounce back, he's kind of cooked, but he's an expiring deal. You let him walk at the end of the season. If he has any kind of bounce back and rebuilds any kind of value, come the deadline, teams are always looking for defense. And if they want to take him on, they want to put him on a bottom pair and use him as depth because he bounces back, you've turned that into something. So that's really what the Penguins are looking at when you take on Matt Dumba's contract.
Right. No, I 100% agree with you on that. Like, the big thing is you're getting the second round pick. Like, that's what you want. And as you said, that's what rebuilding teams do when you have all this cap space. You're not trying to contend. You'll be like, hey, we'll help you out here. Just give us a fairly good asset. And the Penguins were able to get a decent asset at that trade. Anything more, I think, is a bonus. Like, if he's able to give you a bit of better play, even though he looked cooked last year, and a team comes calling for him and even trades a late round pick, Pat, I will take that any day of the week just because of how he played last year.
100%.
I think both Dumba and Clifton are going to get minutes on the right side. Maybe even one of them plays on the left side, for example, at times this upcoming season. So there's going to be some healthy competition down there. But hey, even if he's still not very good this year, you let him walk. It's not the end of the world. He comes off your cap hit. It's totally fine. So I am totally good with that move. I just hope people don't expect a lot from him or even Clifton, to be honest.
No, the expectations for both are extremely low, and that's where they are right now with this rebuild. You're going to take on some projects. You're going to take on some bad money. That way you can get some assets to help you down the road. But that is a good place for us to leave the Monday edition of Locked On Penguins. Like I said at the top, we are back to dailies for season 7 of the show. We're going to continue this summer catch-up for those of you who enjoyed good weather and vacation and weren't absolute sickos like Hunter and I. Tomorrow we keep this going. We're going to recap the Penguins' performance at the NHL draft, get you a little bit more familiarized with some of their picks, who they were able to come out of the draft with, and who we see as a potential future NHLer. So make sure you join us for that. But for now, for Hunter Hodes, I'm Patrick Damp. Thank you as always for tuning in. We will be back on Tuesday.